Well, good morning. Whoops. Excuse me, let me punch my timer. Wait a minute. Hold it on a minute, hold it. Why isn't this working? Excuse me. Well, anyway, my timer's not working. So, okay. So, anyway, happy martini time. So I guess I'm a little bit discombobulated here. So let's, I put the title on here, just ask a question. So this Sunday I have an interesting project, I guess, or experiment, is that there's a Heartfulness Meditation Center in Richmond, and I'm going to be going there on Sunday afternoon and setting up a video dialogue, what I call insight dialogue, with another one of the teachers there, and we're just going to talk and see what comes up. And so I was invited to come in and do that, and to see if it's worthwhile videoing and putting it on their website. And so the topic of this little talk here, I just typed it in, just ask a question. And you know, this whole ask a question is a very profound and deep thing, because in the spiritual traditions and in the teachings of Jesus, it's just ask and you will receive. And if you ever go see a master or a guru, or even a therapist, perhaps, they ask a question. In other words, the question activates the knowledge. If you don't ask a question, there's no knowledge. It's kind of like, if you're thirsty, a river will appear. If you're not thirsty, the river doesn't exist. So if you're thirsty, that's a question. If you have a question, and the deeper the question, the bigger the river. It's kind of like knowledge or grace or Shakti is like a faucet there. But you have to turn it on. And the miracle, the thing is that it will only flow out according to how much you're able to receive. If it flows out more than you're able to understand, you don't receive it. It just flows on the floor, if it flows at all. So the receiver determines what's coming out of the faucet, you see. And this is the way the guru-disciple, the teacher-student relationship works. Is that the student asks the question by turning on the faucet, and the teacher or the master or the guru or whatever the faucet in is like he's tapped into a potential field in his expertise. So if you are a music student, you go to a music master and you ask a question and turn the faucet, then music will flow into you. Or if you're a scientist, or if you're a plumber. You see, whatever the field is, the master, or the one who has been in the field for a long time, is like he's tapped into a potential. But you can't see it. You can't see potential. See, but he's tapped into it. He can't release it unless you ask a question, because he doesn't need to release it. You see, so the whole idea of the question is to open the faucet to the knowledge that you wish to drink from. So if it's spiritual knowledge, meditation, Buddhism, Christianity, whatever the field is that you're interested in, you go to that person who has some experience in that field and you ask a question. You know, so anyway, that's what we're going to set up this Sunday is, and I have no idea what's going to happen. But I do know on Facebook, and I've done a few video dialogues with some people, and when there's a dialogue there is an exchange of energy, and it's creative, and it's insightful because you're both being informed by it. So anyway, I just wanted to put that. So I think what I'm going to do is of course it's going to be videotaped, but and I'll announce this, but I'm going to take my iPad, this one here, and just put it on Facebook. And then, so Sunday afternoon you can see for yourself. I don't know if it'll be worth anything or not. But I do know that even on Facebook, when people ask me questions, it taps into a flow. And the flow comes out faster than I can type. And I'm always informed by the flow, you see. So it's very creative in that when somebody asks a question, I have no idea what's going to flow out, but it just goes out so fast I have to run to keep up to it. I'm saying, wait, slow down, I can't type fast enough. It's an amazing thing. So it's kind of like the back is open. There's a pipe going out and there's a faucet on my nose. So if you turn the faucet with a question, the conduit opens up and this knowledge, whatever you want to call it, this stuff comes out, you know. And I'm informed by it. I don't know if the other person is. So anyway, but that kind of like goes into what I was talking about this morning, about the field. You know, and this doesn't fit our materialistic map. Our Western map, our common sense map, is way behind quantum physics and postmodern physics. You see, our common sense world is still in the Newtonian universe that sees everything as a space-time continuum, and we're all just a bunch of things bumping into each other like bumper cars. And everything has a cause and effect, you see. But the idea behind and again, I'm not a physicist and all that, with just what I read and what the dots I connect everything, and my own personal experience, is there are fields of knowledge that are built upon by humanity, so that each one of us, when we're born, we don't have to start off in a cave trying to discover what fire is. So we tap into this accumulated field of knowledge that we've built up. And there are different science. Every science is a field of knowledge. And that's why when conditions are right in the field for something new to happen, a scientist on either side of the earth might have the same invention. Snap, it'd be like lightning coming down from the field, and they might be never not in communication with each other. And this has happened. And it's because there's a resonance, you see. When there's a field, there's a resonance. And when you resonate with that field, there's going to be an exchange. That's what lightning is, you see. When there's a resonance between the energy in the cloud and the energy in the ground, boom, you have the Sistine Chapel, you know, boom, hitting, you see. And so insight is kind of like that. The Eureka principle, this is well documented by scientific journals. There's a Belgian chemist, Kolpe or something, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But he discovered the benzene ring. And it was a revolution in chemistry. But he had been working on it for years. You know, he didn't know what he was just struggling, you know, so he gave up. And after he gave up searching for it, the benzene ring appeared, this metaphor appeared, and he's just appeared, of a snake eating its tail. And he immediately saw that was what he was looking for, and he began to write out the formulas. It changed chemistry. So this idea of the scientist or the musician or the artist struggling with the question, passionately searching for the question. And this is what Zen is all about. The question is, who am I? So if you really want to know who am I, who you are, you have to have a passionate curiosity in that. And so that passion leads you to all kinds of information and collection of data, studies. You're moving from religion to religion, philosophy to, that's not it. It's kind of like Steve Jobs. There's a vision for an iMac, and people keep bringing, that's not it. That's it. So you recognize it when you see it. But first there has to be the compassionate question. And when that question is there, the answer will come, you see. But it always comes when you give up seeking. That's the pattern. First the question, the struggle, then the frustration. Oh, I'll never find it. I'll quit. And then boom, it happens. That's happened to me several times. I was on an intense spiritual search for 10 years from 1556 until 1968. Studying philosophy, Thomas Merton, mysticism, just anything. I was hungry. I was voracious hunger for this, I don't know what, this truth, this resolution to my suffering, this resolution, this answer to why do I suffer? That's a good question. Why do I suffer? Everybody has that question, but most of us blame other people. I suffer because you took my rabbit, or whatever. You see, so it's something, blaming. We come to a point where we realize that blaming for our suffering does not answer the question. You see. So the question, the heartfelt question, will not be satisfied by an answer that doesn't solve the question, that doesn't remove the question. So anyway, 1968, I've told you all about this, but just to bring it up. Anyway, so I went to sleep listening to Krishnamurti, and I woke up and I had dropped out of culture. I dropped out of the question. I had dropped out of the question. And I was like Zorba the Greek, totally outside of culture, totally outside of fear, totally outside of me. And I remember picking up the Bible, looking in the mirror, and laughing, joy, I see you, I recognize you. And picking up the Bible and reading the words of Jesus. But I was reading them as he spoke them, so that my voice and his voice were speaking it in real time. So I was speaking the words of Jesus as he spoke them, which I later discovered was like Australian dream time. So when the Australian bushman was tracking some animal across the rocks, and the Englishman said, "How do you track an animal across rock?" And he said, "Well, I go into dream time, and I'm walking with the animal as he walks it." So I must have dropped into dream time. And I was speaking Jesus' word as he spoke it. And then it wasn't just Jesus, it was the same with Walt Whitman and T.S. Eliot or whatever. But anyway, that dropout lasted for a couple of weeks, and then culture closed back up, and I was left with the question, how do I get that return? How do I get that back, you see? So then that led to the next journey. So then the question was, then in the 70s, I was following gurus. Yes, the guru had the answer. And then in the 80s, I discovered that the guru didn't have the answer. And I was again alone with the question. And so then I gave up the question and just ran a photography studio. And no spiritual search, no question. I gave it up. But it wasn't satisfying. Something was missing. Something was incomplete. And then in 2005, I went to Yogaville to take my daughter up there. And boom, the question got quick started again. Boom. It was like the fetus kicking in the heart. The heart kicked. Boom. And I was back on the quest, you see. And so, 2005 until now. The unfolding of the question is kind of like a hot penny on an iceberg. If you can keep that hot penny hot, it'll melt an iceberg. How do you keep that hot penny hot? Well, it's the question. And as you go along, you see, the question begins to be the answer. The question and the answer become one. And you reach a point where there is no question. And that's joy. And that's martini time. So the question is its own answer, but you can't find it until you seek it. And so it's the answer to your questions come like fireflies in the front yard on a summer evening. They the little blinking lights, little insights. And these little insights let you know that you're on the right path. And you chase, like kids, you chase the fireflies and try to bottle it and bring it home, you see, but you can't bottle a firefly, you see. All you can do is just be awake and aware and looking for them, knowing that they're coming. And so here again is where faith comes in. Faith and the question seem to be the same. You have faith that the answer is there. You see, but you don't know what the answer is. The caterpillar doesn't know what the butterfly is. You see, so the caterpillar has faith. It's like a biological faith that it'll be a butterfly, but humans have a heart faith that you will wake up out of this field of suffering. Buddha called the wheel of samsara. What did the Buddha say he taught when he was asked the question? He said, I teach suffering and the end of suffering. You see, and so Jesus taught that. The crucifixion and the resurrection. The crucifixion is suffering, the resurrection is the end of suffering. But Christianity gets it all screwed up because then the church comes along and tries to bottle the firefly. Say, look here, we got the end of suffering right here. Just join the church. But when you join the church, nothing is really transformed. You see, it's a horizontal. It's, you've bottled the firefly. So if you really want to, so the question really is to make your own heart the firefly, not to catch it, to become the firefly, to become the answer. But you don't have all the answers. They just come when you need it, when somebody asks a question. So when you become the answer, you don't need to answer it because there's no question. But if somebody else asks you the question, the heart responds with an answer. You see. So the answer is active. The answer is what you do, not what you think, not what you stored up, not some catalog or World Book Encyclopedia. The answer is not something that is known. The answer is unknown. The answer is not known unless you activate it, and then you know it. So unless you do your truth, you don't know the truth. The truth is not static. It's not a firefly in a bottle. It's not an encyclopedia. It's not on the internet. It doesn't exist. It's potential. Truth is potential. And you don't know it unless you can tap into potential. And how do you tap into potential? By not knowing the truth. Not all the mystics say the dark night of the soul, not knowing, the cloud of unknowing, a great mystic, Middle Ages, the cloud of unknowing. In ACIM and all the spiritual traditions, there's the value of not knowing. Surrender. I don't know. What is the truth? What's the truth here? I don't know. That's the question. The biggest example of that in my own life was when, I've got to watch my time, was when I was in Virginia in the mid-'70s. I'd given up yoga, given up the teacher, come to Virginia, couldn't get a job, got a job driving a meat truck. I was a vegetarian meat truck driver. Drove from Victoria, Virginia to Norfolk 4 days a week, back and forth. I'd get up in the morning, get to the meat packing, get my truck at 6 in the morning, open it up, and it would be full of meat, boxes of meat. And I would deliver that meat all day. And then I would come home light, and I would empty. I was empty. I had emptied my meat. And then I woke up the next morning, and the truck was full again. It was like the myth of Sisyphus, pushing the rock up the mountain. It comes back down. It was the carnivorous island in The Life of Pi. What the island gives during the day, it takes away at night. So the truck would fill up during the day, and I would empty the truck, and then it would fill up during the night, and I would come to work, and it would be filled up again. And so I was doing this cycle of my karma, going to, emptying the truck, filling up, emptying the truck, filling up, empty the truck, filling up. And there came a moment when I asked my heart, what is the truth here? What is the truth? I had started smoking, and I had started eating meat, My teacher said, I don't know where you are. So I was not only eating meat, I was taking home the expired hot dogs that the grocery stores left and bringing them home for the family. They looked all right to me. So I asked my heart, what is the truth here? And immediately I knew I wanted to go back to Cleveland and back to my path. And my question came alive, you see. And immediately the cigarettes and the meat dropped off. And I made my plans to leave the meat truck and the carnivorous island and return to my path. But that was just a very dramatic instant for me, where I really sincerely asked my heart, what is the truth here? What do I really want? What do I really want, you see? And the answer came. So, you got a question?